What's up, everybody here, and welcome to my Premier League predictions on match day 25 on this video. We'll start things first. The first predictions for tomorrow on Friday Night Football, as Leeds United will go head-to-head with Nottingham Forest. Both teams are outside of the relegation zone. Both teams are in the safety position of the Premier League, as Leeds are 16th and Forest are a position below Leeds in 17th position in the Premier League. So basically 3 points between the two sides out of each other. There's 3 points between the two. 28 for Leeds, 25 for Forest. Leeds obviously are playing at home. That's a massive advantage, I think, for Leeds United to be at home to Nottingham Forest, because Leeds' home form has been very, very good this season. Okay, they've been drawing a few matches, they've picked up points left, right and centre, but I do think Leeds, at their home ground, very hostile ground as well, this might really knock Forest in terms of a defeat in this matchup. But for Forest, still a good side. They can turn up on their day and beat Leeds. Even their last meeting, Forest won 3-1 to Leeds way back when they last played them in the City Ground. But on match day 25, Leeds are playing Forest here on Friday Night Football at Ellen Road, though. So Ellen Road could be very, very noisy, very, very loud, I think. And the adrenaline's going to really, really going to kick, by the way, for Leeds United in this matchup against Nottingham Forest. And I do think Leeds, in terms of their form so far this season, at home especially, I do think that I can see Leeds picking up a big win over Nottingham Forest on Friday. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for Leeds. I think Forest will score first, but I think that after that, Leeds will score 2 goals and they'll go on and win the matchup on Friday Night Football for tomorrow evening. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for Leeds over Nottingham Forest. Now we move on now to my prediction between Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur. Big matchup at Old Trafford on Saturday at 12:30. Man United are at home. Man United are also in a very, very positive start under Michael Carrick. They beat Fulham 3-2, they beat Arsenal 3-2, and they beat Man City 2-1 under Michael Carrick as the interim manager for Man United. But for Man U, this is very, very important. This is going to be for Man United. Important game for them, because they play Tottenham. Tottenham, however, are the away team. And, Spurs have been very, very poor recently. They're obviously down into the bottom half of the table. Man United, however, are in good form under Michael Carrick. And there's a lot of pressure on Thomas Frank. Big draw, though. Spurs got a draw over Man City from last week. And they did get a point out of them. But they do play away to Man United, though. Will be pretty tough, I think, in terms of how Carrick has done quite well for Man United, I think, since taking over as interim manager after the departure of Ruben Almiron as manager. I do think Man United will go on and win the game. So, personally, I'm going to go for a 3-0 win for Manchester United. I think Man United will go to Old Trafford on Saturday, and they're not going to pick up just a 1-0 win or grind 1-0 win. They're not going to grind a result by a 1-goal victory. They're going to score 3 goals, in my honest opinion, over Tottenham. So, in my honest prediction, I'm going to go 3-0 for Man United as my final prediction on 12:30 on Saturday. Now my official prediction between Arsenal and Sunderland. And we're in very good form, by the way, Arsenal. I know we had a bit of a poor blippy the last home game we lost to Man United 3-2 in our last home game meeting in any Premier League game we played. We lost 3-2 to Manchester United. Big win last week for Arsenal. We went to Leeds. We beat them 4-0 at Ellen Road. And it was a very, very, very big win for us, I think, in terms of how we performed in that game. Really puts the pressure on Man City, obviously, to slip up even further in the table. Because, we are getting points slightly. And teams below Arsenal dropping points every single week. So that's why now the stretch now between us and Man City is getting a little bit higher now for the Gunners. And we do play Sunderland, however. Good season, obviously. Great season. They're currently slipping a little bit away from the top half of the table, but they were doing quite well during this season. Even currently, right now, Sunderland are the only Premier League team have been unbeaten at home all season. But Sunderland, however, are playing away from home, though, at Arsenal. And it might be a difficult game for us to try and pick up a win over Sunderland. But since I backed Arsenal in this game to win, obviously, to go all the way and chase the Premier League title, I think Arsenal might get a 1-0 win. I think it'd be 0-0 throughout the whole game. But I think there might be an own goal, I think. A deflection own goal from one of the Sunderland defenders to make Arsenal lead the game by 1-0. And I think after that, the game will end as the official score. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 win for Arsenal. So I'm going to go for Arsenal 1, Sunderland 0 as my official prediction for Saturday. Now we move on now to our next matchup between Burnley and West Ham United. Big matchup for West Ham United. And also a big game for Burnley also. Obviously, Burnley are miles away from Forest, are in the safety position in 17th position in the league. West Ham, however, are only 5 points. 5 points behind Nottingham Forest in the Premier League table. So they are a little bit drifting away a little bit from Forest slightly-ish. I know that West Ham United actually picked up a defeat from last week. They almost got a result over Chelsea, but Chelsea scored the last late winner in the matchup to go and win the game over West Ham United from last week. And they want to go to Burnley to go and win the matchup. And I do think with West Ham, as a team, they should go and win against Burnley, personally. Burnley might turn up on their day and get a draw over West Ham United because West Ham have been poor. But you got to bear in mind that West Ham did quite well by beating Spurs and also winning the other game after that as well to go 6 points they've gained in the league. And that was a big win over Sunderland, however. 3-1, they beat Sunderland in the league. So, in a way, since West Ham really fought against Chelsea in the last matchup as well to try and get a win over Chelsea, but wasn't the case, unfortunately, during the matchup, I do think there's no excuses for West Ham to slip up against Burnley. Despite how poor they've been this season, I do think that West Ham's squad's a lot better compared to Burnley, especially Diamond has now joined West Ham from Fulham, however, and that's a big signing from West Ham United to get Diamond. So I think personally in this matchup against Burnley and West Ham, I'm going to go for a 2-0 win for the Hammers, I think. I think West Ham will go to Turf Moor and they'll go there with massive positivity in this game. And I do think they'll pick up the 3 points. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 win for West Ham as my score prediction. And now we move on now to the Vitality Stadium between AFC Bournemouth and Aston Villa. Big game for the Cherries for on Saturday when they play Aston Villa at home. Bournemouth are sort of climbing a little bit up the table-ish. Not much, but sort of. And they are in a very... poor New Year's and poor Christmas period, but they picked up slowly some results, creeping results up the table in the Premier League. And they do play Aston Villa, however, who are currently in 3rd place in the league. It's very, very massive for Villa. We know how big this game will definitely be for the Villains in this game because Villa did actually lose 1-0 to Brentford in their last game from the last matchup. They lost 1-0 in that matchup. Very, very poor, I thought it was, for Aston Villa to not pick up any points at home to Brentford. But since Villa are away from home, and since Villa want to try and get back in winning ways, and Bournemouth, however, also doing all right as well in the league, this might be a tough one, I think, for Villa to pick up an away win, I do think. Even though I think Villa could win this game, though, but my head's telling me that Bournemouth might get a point over Aston Villa. So I'm going to go for a Bournemouth 1, Aston Villa 1, as both teams will draw and both teams will get a point out of each other at the end of the matchup at the Vitality Stadium on Saturday. Now we move on now to my official prediction between Fulham and Everton at 3 o'clock. Huge game at Craven Cottage, by the way, because we know how important this will really be for Fulham to pick up a win over Everton. There's a lot to play for Fulham. We know how important this matchup is really going to be for Fulham in this matchup, and also for Everton as well. Very important game for them. They are both in the exact same position in the Premier League, and they both are looking for something special out of the two teams. But if I've got to put a prediction in this matchup, I do think Fulham will go for the draw in this matchup over Everton. I know that both teams, it'd be a bit of a difficult game though, because both teams are looking for a win. But I do think that with Fulham and Everton are in the top half of the table, and Everton's been a little bit slightly good compared to Fulham though, but I do think slightly that both teams will get a draw out of each other. Both teams want this game the most. So I think the game's going to be 0-0 as my score prediction. No goals, I don't think, for Everton and Fulham. And I think that both teams will go to this game fighting for a win. But both teams take it to the end of the game, and then the whistle blows for full time and ends 0-0. You can't really split the two teams as they're currently in the exact same position in the league. So I'm going to go for a 0-0 as my score prediction between Fulham and Everton. Now my official score prediction between Wolverhampton Wanderers and Chelsea at Molineux. This will be a very easy win for Chelsea. Even though Chelsea got knocked out in the League Cup over Arsenal, I know Chelsea obviously are out of the top 4 position at the moment currently in the Premier League, but you look at how Wolves have been all season. I've said this every video on this YouTube channel. They might have had a little bit of a good start in the new year, picking up some results, but I feel that Wolves have given up, I think, this season now. We all know they've given up, and it's all written in the stars now that Wolves will be playing Championship football for next season. Do play Chelsea, though. Chelsea travel to Wolves at Molineux on Saturday at 3 o'clock, but I don't really think that Wolves will do anything serious in this matchup, or pick up a draw, or pick up a big win, or an upset over Chelsea. I do think Chelsea, as they're obviously in the race for challenging for the Champions League football for next season, and also Liam Rossini as well, I do think with Chelsea, I think they're going to pick up a win. I think after losing to Arsenal in the Carabao Cup semi-finals, I do think Chelsea will pick up the win against Wolves. So I'm going to go for a win for Chelsea. I'm going Wolves 0, Chelsea 3 as my official score prediction this matchup. Chelsea win the game by 3-0, and I think by that the matchup will be completely over. I think it will be for Chelsea. So I am going to go for a 3-0 win for the Chelsea team, and that is my official prediction, by the way, for this match day coming up, of course, on match day 25. Newcastle United will take on against Brentford as 5:30 kickoff on the way. As Newcastle, the black and white stripes, will go up against here over Brentford, the Bees. This is a very important game, by the way, between Newcastle especially, and even important for Brentford as well, because they're both going to pick up a win over each other. Big win for Brentford from their last matchup. They move up to 7th in the Premiership after win over Aston Villa. For Newcastle, however, a big game for them at home because they do actually lost in their last game to Liverpool by 4-1 defeat, and also lost 2-0 at home to Aston Villa at St James's Park Stadium. But Newcastle will definitely want to pick up some form because they want to be more closer to qualify in those European places. Don't get me wrong about Newcastle. Newcastle doing really, really good they're doing so far in the UEFA Champions League. You know, qualify themselves to the knockout playoffs. They're playing Karabag in a couple of weeks. They've got that to focus on now, Newcastle now, because they're out of the League Cup after losing to Man City from yesterday. I do think that the league, they should prioritise about that as well. Especially against Brentford. I think they've got to really prioritise this matchup against Brentford, this matchup, especially losing to Villa and also losing to Liverpool in their last 2 games. So, in my honest prediction between Newcastle and Brentford, I'm going to go for a 3-1 win for Newcastle. I think Newcastle will be very positive in this game. They are going to be very, very dangerous in the attack they're going to be. Brentford, however, they know how they play their football at times, even beating Villa surprisingly. And even Brentford have been very, very good this season. Despite without no Thomas Frank in charge, they are very, very good and adapting quite quickly. And I've seen how good that Keith Andrews has been doing at Brentford. But since Newcastle are at home, though, and they obviously need to look for a win, of course, because they lost their last 2 games straight of runs so far this season. I do think Newcastle will pick up the win as a 3-1 prediction. So I'm going to go 3-1 for the Newcastle in the game as my official score prediction. Now my official score prediction between the Seagulls of Brentford, and they go up against Crystal Palace in the M25 derby. Important game this is going to be, by the way, for Brighton, and also for Palace. Both teams, as you can look at right now in the table, you could really see that Brighton are currently down to 13th in the league, but Palace, however, are down to 15th in the league. They're both obviously not like in the top half of the table, in mid-table, but they are slightly below that a little bit. And you can see the points comparisons where Brighton and Palace are. Only 2 points between the two, as Brighton, of course, are 2 points clear from Palace, though. And even Palace are not looking great. You see what they've been doing recently, you know, after losing Mark Gahey to join Man City. I have seen that the Palace team have really deteriorated a little bit slightly recently. And even Mateta now, there's also big, obviously, talks. I think he's staying at Palace now. Obviously, transfer deadline day, I think it ends today. And I haven't seen any moves from Mateta to leave Palace, because he's talked about leaving the Palace team. But if you keep him in the game, or keep him for Palace, though, from now until the end of the season, you're basically you're going to get maybe a chance of Mateta to keep him fit, keep him happy as well. He might give you at least a few goals to keep you miles away from the relegation drop. Currently, Palace are now 9 points clear from West Ham United. So I do expect Palace to be safe from now until the end of the season. But if I've got to put a prediction between Brighton and Palace, I do think that both teams will not pick up any wins out of each other. And since Brighton, of course, love drawing games this season, they've actually drawn 10 times, more than all the other teams in the Premier League. They'll make it 11 draws all season. I think that the game's going to end as a 1-1 draw, I think. I think Palace will get a point, I think, because they've got to try and get some results a little bit now, because they've actually picked up a few losses. They're miles away from the relegation drop, obviously 9 points clear from where West Ham are currently at. But I do think that Palace have to definitely turn up in this game against Brighton on Sunday, especially they are their rivals, the M25 derby. So you can't split them in terms of a win between the two. I do think it will come down to a draw in this matchup. So in my honest score prediction between Brighton and Palace, I'm going to go for a 1-1 scoreline prediction. 1-1, by the way, between Brighton and Palace. That's all my official score prediction going into the end of Matchday 25 between the two sides, between the Seagulls and the Eagles. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw as my official score prediction. My official score prediction between Liverpool and Man City at Anfield. Anfield's a very tough place to go, by the way. A very tough place to go, because when you go to Anfield, you somehow definitely lose this game. Even though that Liverpool won against Newcastle 4-1. And even they are playing Man City, however, the team also really challenging Arsenal now for the Premier League title. They are hotting up, they are, Man City, though. But you got to bear it in mind, Man City have been dropping points recently in the Premier League. They drew 2-2 to Spurs. They also picked up a win to Wolves. You expect them to do that. They actually have dropped a few points, and they're giving Arsenal now the big opportunity to go and extend their points at the top of the league. And I've seen that, of course, from their last games of the Premier League on Matchday 24, when Man City drew 2-2 to Spurs, and also Arsenal picked up a win in their matchup against Leeds in the last game. But you know this is going to be a very, very important matchup for Man City, though. Man City going to Anfield and picking up a win over Liverpool will be a big ask, I think, for Pep Guardiola. Not just because I don't think that Man City are not capable on getting a result over Liverpool. It's just because I have seen that a lot of teams obviously go to Anfield and end up losing or end up drawing. And maybe a funny loss for Liverpool, for the away opposition, to get results. But it's not really likely for any team who travel to Anfield to go and win the matchup. So I do think, since Man City is also in this title race, and I need to consider this, of course, in terms of my prediction in this game, I do think that both teams will go out for a draw, I think. I think both teams will score 2 goals each. I think that Liverpool will score first, and I think that Man City will score after, and then Liverpool will make it 2-1, and then a goal from Erling Haaland to make sure that Man City claim a point over Liverpool on Sunday's game. So if I've got to put a score prediction between the two sides, I am putting my money, of course, on a draw in this game, I think. I don't think that Man City will be anywhere dangerous in this game, and I don't think Liverpool will go anywhere closer to win the game. I do think that Liverpool defend quite well. I think they're going to really stop Man City from trying to score against them. They'll have the fans all behind them, you know, chanting "never walk alone," making it more intimidating for the away team to pick up anything in the game. And they'll go inside the mind of Pep Guardiola and also the mind of the players as an attitude into this game. I think they're going to be very struggling and a bit worried, I think they're going to be, after this matchup over Liverpool. Despite how poor Liverpool been so far this season, at home, they do get results, though. But I am doing a draw, though, because Man City's in a title race with Arsenal. So I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw as my final score prediction between Liverpool and Man City for the end of Matchday 25. And that's my official score prediction in the matchup here of all the games on Matchday 25 of the Premier League. We've got now a couple weeks break away from football. We do have the FA Cup next week, and also a winter break we do have in the Premier League, by the way. We do have a big Premiership break. Also, we got some midweek games as well to look forward to as well for us as well. To play Brentford, and also have a little bit of a break between as well in games. So this will be a very, very interesting one, of course, in terms of my next predictions for Matchday 26 on my next video on my YouTube channel. So that's all for my content, by the way, on my YouTube channel. I'd like to wish you all a real big thank you, guys, and I'll see you guys, of course, on the next journey of the next episode of the Premier League predictions. So thank you all for watching, much appreciated, and have a good one. Peace out, and I hope you enjoy this whole video of my score predictions of the Premier League.